Oh, golly. I'm so depressed. So, Poirier versus Oliveira is done. It's going to go down in December. Now, sure, we should be excited, right? Sure, there's a part of me that is. But can you guys share this? Every time we get an answer in MMA, that also answers other questions, which then takes hope away. By example, Poirier versus Oliveira. Awesome. Right fight? Sure it is. You got the champion against the clearest number one contender that the sport has in Poirier. But the depressing part, Poirier was talking about Nate a week ago. Nate was talking about Poirier a week and a half ago. So it kept hope alive. We're wondering as fans, where is this going to go? The ball is ponging, it's volleying back and forth, right? It's one of these really fun things. And I must tell you, nobody's done this better than Poirier. I refuse to give Poirier credit as some kind of a brilliant marketing negotiator. I refuse to. I think it was on accident. But even on accident, Poirier killed this one. He killed it. Poirier is the clearest, most obvious number one contender. The undisputed number one contender. Has there ever been such a thing? Everybody disputes the number one contendership. You fight for it. You fight for it in the cage, but you fight for it in the media. You fight for it in social media. You make your case, you make your argument, whatever it is to get that contract, to get your way. Nobody disputed Poirier. Nobody even questioned him. All the 55-pounders just stood back and said, Mr. Poirier, come on through. And he was owed that. There's nobody in the sport, not just that division, not just this organization. There is nobody within the sport that more clearly should have a title shot than Dustin Poirier. But Poirier refuted it. He refuted his own number one contendership, which has never happened. It has simply never happened. And the reason I have to give him a ton of credit is because there's nothing to talk about. And much like at the casinos, right? Anytime you're in Vegas, the house always wins. We knew the house was going to win this one. We knew the house was going to get the number one contender in there with the champion, but there was still a show to watch. And there was still maneuvering being done by Poirier, who had he laid down and said, that's my fight, there's nothing to talk about. Never a great spot to be in when there's nothing to talk about. There was nothing to talk about. So Poirier created something, which is, I might forego the number one contendership and go and do this business with Nate or somebody else or hold out for Conor. I'll keep my options open. The number one contender doesn't have any options. He is the number one contender. He fights whoever the champion is. Not according to Poirier. It was fascinating the way this was done. I don't know how that dialogue was. I don't know how it went back and forth, but Poirier opened Pandora's box in many ways. If this fight didn't get done with Oliveira, you talk about the house always wins. If this fight didn't get done, it would have opened up a very slippery slope, slope that I feel we might be seeing right now at heavyweight. When you have the interim champion and you have the undisputed champion, there is nothing to talk about. That is the way that this is done. Show a little bit of respect to the history of the sport, to the locker rooms, to the other people with like-minded goals. You got to meet up. That's never been questioned. Now, the house will win, and that will get done, but Poirier is the first to ever create a conversation on where the number one contender is going to throw that card. What if Poirier comes out? What if? And goes, yeah, I'm the number one contender. Does anybody here dispute that? Great. No hands went up. Great. Usman, let's fight. Nobody said I have to be the number one contender at this weight class. You all just said I'm the number one contender, and I'm going to use it with you, Kamar. Just imagine. I'm just having fun here, but just imagine that this happened. Everyone would have tipped their heads. Their jaws would have dropped. What are you talking about? That's not the way this was done. But there'd be something to talk about. And that's what Poirier was so successful in doing here, which I refuse to give him credit. I totally refuse. And maybe I should look at him as a smarter guy. I certainly don't look at him as a dumb guy. This was a brilliant move. I think it was on accident. I think he had fun trolling. I think he saw the power in being a troll. I think that he saw the headlines that he was getting. I think he planned to fight Oliveira the entire time. But I could be wrong. And either way, Poirier created a dialogue for number one contenders, which has never existed. It's never existed, and it was extremely important that the House went on this. It's extremely important that these two got together and that precedence was not set. I wouldn't like that as a fan. I understand we got entertainment, we got all these different things, but at some point we have to show respect to the integrity of a number one contender taking on a champion. That's what's going to happen. Great, nothing to see here. But Poirier at least started the talk, and there was a part of me, as much as that's the fight that I want to see, where, now that I find out that's the fight I'm going to see, and I have no hope of seeing Nate, by example, now there's still the question, well, where does Nate go? I think it was a big surprise when Nate fought Leon in the first place. Like, if there's one consistency, if there's one history in Nate Diaz's career, it's that he fights really hard fights. It's that he generally comes in the underdog because he stacks so many things against him, and he and Leon had nothing. When they started, it ended up being great and massive by the time it went down, but they started at scratch. So you never know what Nate's going to do. Like, if you sit down and go, this is a big fight, of course they're going to do that. And not necessarily with Nate. Sure, you might drop one right down the pike out, go grab Conor and go grab Nate. Great, anybody can sell a Ferrari. Bring me the guy that can move a used Volvo off the lot. That's the guy I want to talk to. And that's what Nate can do in many ways. So it opens the door. Sure, we took Poirier off the board, but look at all the pieces that are left. What is Nate going to do? That's what depresses me. That's the tough part, right? The tough part about getting your way in this sport, which we all got, the tough part about having an announcement that it's going to be Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier, is it closes the door on all the other silliness. It'd all be silly. Those two have to fight, otherwise we're just being ridiculous. But there's a level of fun that we can have with it being ridiculous. Can we agree on that?